a little bit of time introducing ourselves and talking a little bit about the program, and then moving quickly to a dialogue with our current students. I'm Kelly Wilson. I direct the M.Ed program with the concentration in school leadership, teacher leadership. I've been with High Tech High and the GSE for 13 years as a math science teacher, founding principal, and now in the GSE working with the master's students. Can we quickly have each person introduce themselves? Rob, I'll have you go up first.
I'll go. My name is Rob Reardon. I'm a co-founder of High Tech High, and I'm the president of the High Tech High Graduate School of Education.
And Patricia.
Hola, I'm Patricia Munoz, coming from Chicago, and I'm a student here at the School Leadership Program.
Great. And Judy?
Hi, I'm Judy, and I'm also here in the School Leadership Program.
Great. And Steve?
I'm Steve Hamilton. I'm a professor at Cornell University. I'm the Director of Research at the High Tech High Graduate School of Education, and I'm the President-elect.
Okay, wonderful. Ryan, if you want to move forward a couple slides. Great. So we're going to give a quick program overview, talk to students, and then make sure that we have lots of time for your questions. Next slide. Okay, great. Rob's going to kick us off by sharing a little bit about the history of how the High Tech High K-12 schools came to be and how that connects with the Graduate School of Education, why we started a Graduate School of Education, and kind of what's at the core for us.
Thank you, Kelly. We started High Tech High back in 2000, and there were a couple of things that we wanted to accomplish when we opened that school. One was to end social class segregation in schools. In other words, we wanted to have a school that was richly diverse and untracked, where students were from many different backgrounds were in the same classroom together. And we wanted to end teacher isolation, meaning we didn't want Larry Rosenstock and I were co-founders. We had worked for many years in a public school, public high school, where you know, you closed your door and nobody bothered you and so on. And we didn't want that. We wanted a richly collaborative adult culture. So when we started the program and started with our first schedule, we arranged it so that by contract, teachers come to school an hour each day before the students arrive, meaning that there's plenty of time at the beginning of the day for students to talk with each other, for teachers to talk with each other about the curriculum, about and about the students that they shared. In other words, we knew we wanted to have a project-based environment where kids were doing lots of hands-on things, and we knew that we would be hiring people who maybe bought into project-based learning but had never really experienced it themselves in their own lives as students. So we needed to have that kind of time for professional development. As we went along, we realized we wanted to credential our own teachers. We were hiring people with PhDs who were not qualified to teach in high school because they didn't have a credential, and they had to go to a nearby university and pay money to learn to teach in ways that we didn't particularly want them to be teaching. So we applied to be a provider of the California teaching credential. We got that, and then in 2007 we moved to have to open a graduate school of education. So we're founded around integrations. We integrate students. We integrate school with the world beyond school. All of our students do internships. We integrate the subjects. We integrate technical and academic training. And with the GSE, we are attempting to integrate graduate school with clinical sites. Both Larry and I had taught in the program at Harvard Grad School of Education, and one of our frustrations was that we would be talking about constructivist pedagogy and so on in our classes at the ed school, but then our students would come back and say that they were not permitted to try those things out in the clinical sites where we were working, where they were working. So we wanted to have a graduate school that was really fully embedded in a K-12 environment, where the clinical site, so to speak, was aligned with the values of the program. So I think that's enough to say about it, except that we're really after reflective practice, and throughout the organization we're about social class integration and equity, so that anyone who is interested in pursuing studies around equitable schools and equitable learning, we're interested in you. I'll stop there.
Okay, great. So as Rob mentioned, there are 3 institutional learning outcomes that really guide our work in the graduate school program. One is to practice thought and reflection. So in the M.Ed. program and the online hybrid Leading Schools program, your learning and your work is really guided by inquiry. So the questions that you pose, the passions and interests that you bring to the program, and how you want to investigate and explore those. By being embedded within the schools, everything is put to practice. So the nature of the program, and it's a cohort-based program, is that we are support to helping you think through the design of your work, to reflect on your work, and to constantly be engaged in kind of listening feedback and critique to guide future action. So one of our main goals is that you all develop as reflective practitioners through the program, and that your instructors and all of those engaged in the GSE work, from critical friend directors to students to instructors, are all in the habit of constantly thinking about how can we get better at what we're doing. And the second is design equitable and engaging learning environments. I think one of the narratives out there about High Tech High is that we are about innovation, deeper learning, project-based learning, and while that's true, it really is in service to our larger agenda, which is, as Rob said, social class integration, addressing issues of equity and inequity in schools. So it's really a social justice mission at the heart, and looking at how pedagogy and providing access and challenge to all learners can be in service to creating more equitable outcomes for all of our students. And the third is leading for school change. So we talk a lot about leading from behind, sharing leadership, really as school leaders, learning how to facilitate conversation, how to collaborate with colleagues, and how to bring out and empower the voices of students, teachers, and other stakeholders in this school. So there are times to lead from the front, but really our model is to make as few decisions as possible, to share decision-making, share leadership, and really give students and teachers a lot of ownership of shaping and guiding the vision of the school. So Ryan, you can't see it. Ryan is helping us with tech support right now. If you could head to the next slide. Thank you. So in the M.Ed. program, there are 2 concentrations. One is in teacher leadership, the other is in school leadership. The teacher leadership program is offered as a 2-year part-time or 1-year residency. So 2-year part-time for working professionals. You come and take your classes at night. You do need to have a context. So you need to be embedded in a school or another context that will allow you to put to practice or apply what you're learning through the GSE, or as a 1-year residency. So there's an option to come and spend a year embedded in the high-tech high schools, learning, thinking deeply about equity, about pedagogy, and also how to develop as teacher leaders in your school. So people that choose a teacher leadership concentration are typically, but not always, classroom teachers that want to deepen their own teaching practice, but also to develop and grow as leaders in their settings. So working with colleagues, maybe taking on instructional design, coaching, but they don't have an interest in becoming an administrator. The school leadership concentration is offered as a 1-year full-time residency where you are embedded in our schools. You're partnered with a critical friend director of one of the 12 high-tech high schools. We have elementary and high schools in 3 campuses across San Diego: Chula Vista, Point Loma, and San Marcos. And you share an office with the director. So you're learning to lead through apprenticeship, doing a lot of observation, shadowing, being a participate in your studying in the start of the year, and then as the year goes on, really taking on more co-leadership, so planning professional development, coaching teachers, looking at the budget, helping to support student issues, working with parents. So it's very much in both concentrations learning by doing approach that is designed to be personalized and authentic and transformative. So as we're thinking about education as a tool for transforming the lives of our students, there's also a personal and professional transformation happens through the program that you'll find when you're here. The other thing that we offer is an Education Leadership Academy. That's a one-year hybrid online program. That's for educators around the country and the world who are interested in change efforts at their school to bring more of this type of learning to their setting, to try new things out in their classroom, to support colleagues in taking risks and trying new things. And typically people apply as teams. So we found that it works really well, and there's at least one administrator and there's a team of teachers working together, and they come here 3 times during the year, and we have people like Ken Kay, Tony Wagner, Ron Berger, Camille Farrington. We kind of have a group of in between that, you're online working on a leadership project, unpacking readings through the forums that we have. So that's a very rich program that's accessible to people that are not located in San Diego or interested in relocating here. Next slide. Great. So again, we're engaged in work that matters. We have a learn by doing approach. The projects being personalized, you'll find that in almost every class there is an option for you to pursue the project in a very different way. So for example, we had a course called Using Data to Inform Practice, and the idea was to think about what data really matters in the school, what tells us something about what we care about most as far as student learning. How do we gather that data, how do we facilitate conversations about that data, and how do we use it to inform practice in the school? So one example of what a student did was to really network and reach out to alumni of one of our high schools, created a Facebook page, an alumni survey, got a lot of data that we did not have before about their experience in college and what they remember from high school, brought alumni in for a panel to a faculty meeting, and then they looked at the data alongside faculty to kind of analyze and make meaning of that data and think about next steps. So that was one project. Another, completely different, we had a resident here in the school leadership concentration that was also head of school for a school in Utah. And she engaged her teachers in mini action research projects where each of them thought about a problem of practice or something they were working on in their classroom, got feedback from students, and then tried something new based on that student feedback and input. And then they all got together and had presentations of learning and reflected on what they had learned from trying new things out in their classroom. So a very different approach to the same project. So it's really an opportunity for you to think about how your passions intersect with the needs of the school and to pursue the work that we're doing in a way that's very authentic and personalized to you. And then another kind of cornerstone of the program is the integration of theory and practice, so that we're always looking at how those two things inform one another and rub up against each other with a critical lens. Okay, next slide, and then we will hear from students. Fellowship opportunities. So we have lots of fellowships in the GSE. We do encourage you to apply and to let us know your needs in your cover letter. The tuition is advertised for the M.Ed. program at $25,000. Typically, people are paying a little more than half of that, just with fellowships that we're able to offer to offset that tuition based on some of the startup money that we still have from the GSE. We're really looking to continue to diversify our students in the GSE for everyone. We have a much richer learning community and learning experience when all voices are at the table in our discussions and our conversations, and when we're thinking about how to best meet the needs of disadvantaged students. It's really important that we ourselves are a diverse group having those conversations. So we offer full tuition diversity fellowships. So please let us know if you'd like to be considered for that. And then we have a unique fellowship right now for the school leadership concentration. We got a grant from the Walton Family Foundation that's supporting our 12 residents this year, and will support the 12 that we have this coming year in 2015, next fall. And that is a full tuition fellowship with a partial living stipend, $2,000 per month, and also support after graduation. So we're going to keep the cohort connected to our professional online learning community. They'll get together once a month with GSE faculty and their formal critical friend directors, talk about the they're having in their leadership practice now that they've left us and they're out working in different schools, and also share best practices. And then we have money to fly them back to kind of reconnect throughout the year. And then finally, the teacher leadership resident fellowships. We're trying to grow the number of residents that we have here spending 1 year embedded in our schools in the teacher leadership concentration. So we are offering kind of further fellowships if you choose the 1 year full-time option. We also are in the final stages of our WASC accreditation process. This March will hopefully be our last visit before we get accredited. We have a big report due at the end of this month, which is really exciting. But basically, we are at a candidacy status, which means that we're eligible for our students now to receive Title IV funding, which means that you can apply for student loans. Whatever fellowship you're given, you can apply for student loans to offset the remaining cost. Okay, great. Rob or Steve, do you want to add anything else before we begin hearing from students and kind of having more of a conversation?
I think we should hear from students now.
Okay, great. Okay, so we have Enrique, Judy, and Patricia here. Let's start off with what brought you to the GSE, and maybe just the first two so far, what stands out to you about your experience?
Okay. So what brought me here, after being involved in urban education for more than 20 years, primarily with the Latino community in Chicago, it was about time to reflect. It was about see what is the discussion about the theory and the innovation that occurs, and how can I bring what is being done to my community. So what would be that place? And obviously it would be, for me, it was High Tech High, which I had initial contacts in the year 2002 when we opened one of our schools. So taking what is being done here and bringing it to my community is one of my major goals. And then what has been, the second question would be, what has stand out? I would say just being involved with a very diverse school. That has been, for me, incredibly enlightening, and see how the students relate and teachers relate to the realities of our students, but also providing those opportunity, closing that opportunity gap, which is going to be closing the academic gap for our students. So it has been a great opportunity for me to learn more in depth.
Hi. So I think what brought me to the Graduate School of Education here is just a desire to learn more. I felt like in my old school I'd sort of reached a point where I wasn't quite getting as much support anymore in terms of growing in my own practice. And I really just wanted to come back and be a student and just learn. So this environment has been so perfect. We're just completely immersed in a school setting and just learning so much every day from all of the people around us, students, teachers, directors. I think one thing that's really stood out to me so far is how important it is to experience your learning and not just be a product of it. I think that before coming to High Tech High, I knew about it in the sense that it was a project-based learning school and that the physical learning structure, you know, supported what the goals of the school were. But I think now, knowing that it's all about achieving equity for our students, I think that makes everything just so much more powerful for me.
Okay, great. And we're going to hear from Enrique, who We haven't got his lower thirds on yet, but he can introduce himself.
Yes, so I'm Enrique Lugo, and I'm in the teacher leadership program. And what brought me to the program is the opportunity to work with other teachers as well as people who are interested in leading schools. And it's something I didn't realize, that I would be working with people of all range of experience. And so far, that's been one of the biggest things that has stood out to me is how easy that has been and how open my colleagues have been and cohort partners have been, and just sharing their experience and really just learning from one another. And I've never felt like, I mean, I think the first few days I felt a little bit overwhelmed by the experience in the room and not sure of myself, but as the days have gone by and weeks have gone by, I feel much more comfortable, and what I've learned so far has been huge on a personal level and on a professional level. I think everything we've done so far I've already applied in so many ways, and I think that's what drew me to the program. I think being a part of High Tech High as a teacher has really shown me that there's a lot of openness in the learning, and I think just equity as a professional, you know, and the opportunity to learn how to apply that to my students and share that with my students has been great. So far it's been amazing.
Great. Thank you. All right, so I'm just going to keep questions going, and other people can throw questions to the group, but it would be great to, when you think about what you've done so far since we started in early August, share a learning experience that was significant to you and why. So it might be a project that you did for one of your courses or something that happened during class, but share, or even while you've been embedded in the schools doing field work. So share a learning experience that has been significant to you and why.
Hi, sorry. So I think as far as one learning experience, that's definitely tough. I feel like there have been so many. I do have to say, though, in a recent class actually taught by Rob, it was, we had to design a project, and I think it would have been so easy to just design an ideal project and imagine it for an imaginary group of students who would always behave and just get everything that you wanted. But because of the structure here at High Tech High, I actually had the opportunity, even though I'm not in the classroom this year, to collaborate with a 7th grade teacher as well as an 11th grade teacher and have our students work together on 2 different final products, but actually work collaboratively together and critique each other's work. And just being in an environment where that can happen is just mind-blowing. It's just been so transformative.
Something that I've experienced so far has been on the different activities that we've done throughout the courses. One that really stands out is the dialogical interviews, where we've had opportunities to share more of our personal histories, and that has been a great impact with me personally, because I think it's also helped me become more comfortable within the cohort, and it's something that I've implemented into my own classroom. Getting students to get to know each other a little better. We did an activity that we did early on in our first course where students got to speak for a minute and their peer could only listen. And it was great because high school students sometimes struggle with that. And out of that, in our kind of debriefing period, at least one student shared how that experience was so powerful for them because they realized how often they would change what they would say or not say what they really wanted to based on the other person's questions or comments, and this gave them an opportunity to just really share what they thought and what they felt. And since then, I think we've had more bonding within our students, and it's interesting to me because I work with seniors, and that's something that I think assume has already happened, and that they come to me already as friends and ready to collaborate. But I mean, we're all human beings, so that's not always true. And this gave us an opportunity where, you know, I had a pair of students who shared how this was the first time they had spoken, and they actually wrote each other's name in their reflections, and it made me really happy because I would have thought that this had already happened. Like, how could they not have already spoken? We're such a small school. But to be able to share those experiences with my students has been really powerful, and I think drawn connections between them and I. So I think just the practicality of what we do and how quickly we can, you know, me as a teacher, how quickly I can take what I'm learning and apply it to the classroom has been huge, because not only has it given me new tools and new activities I can do with the students, but I think it's also helped me understand my students and listen to them and just kind of be more in tune to what they need and what they are kind of craving even in their senior year, which I think can be tough.
Okay, great. And then we have Patricia was down the hall. So she's just coming in here. We're having some tech. Oh, and I have to turn it this way. Okay. So we were just sharing just either something that you're working on connected to the GSD, or maybe a learning experience that has felt significant, stands out.
Well, there's so much that I don't think that an hour would be enough to share with everyone. But I would say that the fact that we are designing our learning and identifying the areas that we want to grow, that we want to explore based on our experience, it's so critical for our growth. So I would say that right now I'm part of the evaluation or evaluation for the high school. So I'm part of that group of analyzing the data and working as a team in order to have the reaccreditation next year. So that's one thing that I'm working on. And another passion of mine is working with the parents. So as identifying what are the avenues for our parents, since they have been able to be accepted to the school through the lottery intentionally by zip codes. So it's how the parents have felt about working in the school and seeing those connections with the teachers and the students and providing those opportunities that are available for them here at the school. So that has been a great experience to learn more about how High Tech High is working on that.
Great. And Patricia has contributed so much already to mobilizing a lot of our Latino parents to feel more connected and kind of authorized at the school, to have a voice at the school, to feel connected to each other and to the teachers, and that's developing into her master's project. So each M.Ed. student thinks about a passion that they have, the way that they want to contribute to the setting, and where that intersects with the need of the school. So it's really interesting to see how different the projects are based on what each person brings. Maybe we'll do one more question, or Rob, do you have one? And then we can open it to...
I would be curious to hear a little bit from Steve, who has kind of come to us from Cornell, a very large university, into this smaller setting, and has just heard some of the commentary from students. I wonder what some of Steve's reactions have been to being in the setting and so on.
Sure. Several, like Patricia, I feel like I could go on and on. I guess one of the things that I've been struck by is the consistency of the pedagogical approach and the philosophy of education throughout High Tech High, from the schools, elementary, middle, and high school, into the graduate school. I see many of the same pedagogical techniques used in graduate seminars that teachers use in the K-12 schools as well, and that's striking to me. They work for adults as well as for children, and they are practiced by the teachers in the classroom as well as by the graduate students, and that's something I had not thought about before until I noticed it in the graduate school and marveled at it. As someone who's coming from a research university and with a strong interest in the connection between research and practice, I'm fascinated and excited by the way in which the graduate students' engagement with research, which is how they earn their master's degrees, makes research something that is going on in the schools as a matter of course, not just something that university people come in and do and then go away, but something that the people who live there do because they have questions and they want to find the answers, and they involve their colleagues and their students in doing that research. For me, that's a much more exciting and promising and powerful kind of research than much of the educational research that's done in the conventional way. And I'm very excited about being part of a graduate school that is teaching and practicing practitioner research.
Great. Thank you. We're gonna throw one more question to the students, and then I want to remind our audience members that you can pose questions in the Q&A section of Google+. So please go ahead and start doing that while we take one more question, and we'll turn it over to your question. So for our students, what advice would you give to prospective students that are thinking about coming to the program next year?
I think the biggest word of advice that I would give to a prospective student is that if they have the opportunity to apply and join this program, that they absolutely should. It was something that I, had to talk to my wife about and just really think about, could I make the commitment? But I am so happy that we agreed to going for it. And I think someone said this to me, and it might have been Kelly. I think she said it to my wife, that people that go through this program go through it as a couple. And so far, I believe that's true. My wife has been a huge supporter and just giving me the space and time to do this program. But I think it's something that has already changed me in so many ways, and I'm only 4 courses in. But just the impact that it's had on my teaching and just the way I think and the way I collaborate with my colleagues here at my school has already changed in so many ways. And I'm really appreciative of that. And I think it's been the instructors as well as the cohort that I'm in, the people that I get to meet with once a week. It's just been incredible. And I don't know that you can get that just anywhere. The way the program is run, the way the courses are structured, the way we get to share and interact, even in our posts that we do online. I think there's so much collaboration that's happening and just sharing of wisdom and pushing of our thinking between instructors and colleagues. I don't know that you can put a value on that, and for anyone that is just on the fence, I think you have to do it. If you can, you have to do it.
I'll go next. So I think for me, the advice would be just to be ready. And I think Enrique talked about a lot of things that I agree with, that just being here, you're surrounded by so many like-minded people, and yet it doesn't mean that we all agree on everything. It means that we continually push each other to think deeper about things. And it's so open, and it's December, so I think I've been here for only a few months, and yet I feel like a different person than I did when I finished my academic year in June last year. I just feel completely different. It's definitely a rigorous program, but it's so worthwhile. There isn't anything that I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't have to do that. It's all like, it's more work, but I know I'm going to get so much out of it. And like Enrique said, it's the discussions online, it's the discussions in class, it's the assignments that we do. It's just a greater sense of purpose in what we what we do here.
Wow, you guys didn't let me anything. I echo everything. I would say to pack very light, to be very frugal, because what you're gonna get, you're gonna be immersed, and what you're learning is what you're seeing, what you're practicing, what you're questioning. Rob and Larry have said we're not a model, we are an example. And that transparency of being able to address issues, the dilemmas that exist outside and the dilemmas that exist inside. We have that honest conversation as educators with the moral responsibility that we have for ourselves and our communities to bring those on the table, to discuss them. And with all these great minds that acknowledges we're not there yet because we have a growth mindset, how can we do it together? What are we anticipating? This is a question. What's happening, in the rest of the world? And when you see people coming here from the rest of the world and having those discussions, we feel so privileged of being here surrounded by people that are questioning and are challenging themselves, challenging the status quo, and pushing ourselves. So yes, it is not easy, and I would say that we have to write and write a lot, and make sure that we live to the standards and the level of each of the founders of this organization. We have to take this back wherever we're going to go, whether it's in Colombia, whether it's in Chicago, wherever we're planning to go. We have that moral responsibility to live up to those expectations. And I think that it's the openness and transparency of addressing the issues what makes us stronger. So pack light, and very frugal, because we have to study a lot and write a lot.
Okay, great. And we do have some, thank you for that, for everyone. Thank you. We do have some questions that have come in. So from Melissa, do we have any rough data on what your school leadership graduates are doing 3, 4, 5 years out? Yes, we do. So I think about 2/3 of them are in administrative positions, either leading schools as principals, vice principals, deans, academic deans. So that's what I would say the majority of them are doing. We have some of them that are leading high-tech high schools, and some that are kind of in other spots in San Diego or across the country in the Bay Area, DC, New York. So if you're interested in connecting with anyone that has spent time here, done the M.Ed. program, and then gone to other parts of the country, how they're experiencing bringing some of the practices to different environments, and what's really been successful, what's been challenging, we're happy to connect you with some of those alumni. I would say another about less than 1/3 have done other types of positions. We have someone who's director of inclusion or special ed for a network of schools. We have a few graduates that have gone to England and worked with the innovation unit to support schools in transitioning to project-based learning. A graduate who's been at New Tech, network of charter schools out on the West Coast, and has been working on coaching teachers and school leaders actually in school transformation efforts and doing more project-based learning in their schools. We have someone at Tufts who's part of the kind of the engineering and innovation unit that's working with schools to bring more coding, programming, and kind of more hands-on, innovative, deeper learning into schools. So there are a lot of opportunities to kind of do coaching, to do design work, and to work with kind of networks of schools that are engaged in similar change efforts. And then we do have some graduates that are teaching. So there are some people that do the program, and I said that's a smaller handful, but there are some that really value kind of the bird's eye view that they were able to take during the program to think about the different systems and kind of aspects of school design and kind of supporting the whole school community, and kind of step outside of their classroom lens and look deeper at those various things. You're engaged in, courses on school law, school budgeting, school design, leadership for school change, but in the end have really felt connected to the classroom and wanted to continue there for now. So we do have graduates that are teaching. Then another question, also for the school leadership graduates from outside of San Diego, what are the biggest challenges they have when moving back to their state of residence? That's a great question, and I can respond, but I can see if other people are interested. What are the biggest challenges? I mean, I think with any of us doing this work is that it's hiring is in finding teachers that have experience teaching in this type of way or have themselves come from learning environments where they taught in this way. That's rare to find. So I think some of our shared work is how do you bring people in that are very reflective, have a growth mindset, they're willing to take risks, they want to be doing more of this type of learning in their classroom, but the coaching work and not the one-on-one coaching work, but also the way that you design and set up this school so that there are lots of opportunities for teachers to get feedback on their practice, to bring in dilemmas on their practice, to shape an adult learning community. I think that's one thing I hear often that people are engaged in is how do we support teachers in doing this type of work and what is our role as instructional leaders in supporting that. Rob, do you want to say, is there anything else that comes to mind for you when you think about that question?
I think you've covered it pretty well, Kelly.
Yeah, okay. So here's another question. For the part-time teacher leadership, how much time till weekly? What would be the start dates? Okay, great. So for the part-time teacher leadership program, you have class once a week, and the program goes for 2 years. Your meeting for classes typically meet for 3 hours, and then you typically have another at least kind of 6 hours of out-of-class time work on the forums or through assignments or putting to practice through your projects some of the ideas in the course and trying things out in your setting or in your classroom. And the start dates for both programs, we begin the first week of August and we go through the end of June. So
let's hear from Enrique on that question, though.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Jump in.
Just on the question of how much time.
What was that?
How much time do you put in weekly, would you estimate, Enrique?
Oh, man. It depends. And it's funny because we were talking about this after class with another teacher from our school who came to sit in on the class. And we were telling them, like, sometimes that varies, right? Like, it could be anywhere from 3 to 4 hours to more like 10 hours. And I think the one thing I will say, though, is that it has been a lot of work. And for me, being a full-time teacher, it's hard to juggle at times. But it has never felt, like Judy said, like something that, oh, my God, like, I have to do that. I can't believe it. It's always been a lot of work, but it's really meaningful work. And what I've loved the most is that it's all been tied not just to what we're doing in the courses, but also what I've been doing within my own teaching practice in general, and things that I was already thinking about coming in. So even though that it is quite a bit of time committed to the class, to the outside work, I feel like it's really purposeful and will never, at least yet, has not felt like something that's more of just like homework. You know, it's work that I actually want to engage in, and part of it is too, there's an accountability to the rest of the cohort and in the posts and sharing and giving feedback, and I don't know, I've been busy. Time has flown these first 3 months, but I've never been happier to be this busy.
Great. Does anyone else want to comment on that kind of balance, or the other questions? There, and feel free to pop in if you want to say more. Another question I see here, I'm interested in finding more information regarding the one-year online hybrid master's. It's actually not a hybrid online master's program. It's a non-degree granting kind of professional program. So it's for teams that are engaged in school change efforts across the country or across the world, but we are not yet offering the M.Ed. online. We might consider that in the future, but we're getting through our accreditation first before we take on that. We have offered MOOCs, or the massive online open courses in deeper learning, school design. We have another one this year that's really listening to the voices of students to think about how we teach and learn and lead in schools. That's really just for us to learn more about how how to really create a constructivist dialogical space online and not just take traditional teaching and move it into a different medium, which I think is the fear and kind of what we're trying to avoid with what we do in online spaces. So no M.Ed yet, but if you want to learn about the Hybrid Online Education Leadership Academy program, go ahead to the website and you will find information about it there, but you can also email us and we can connect you with Laura McBain, who directs that program, and I'm sure she'd be happy to set up a time to answer more of your questions. And Ryan, actually, while you're here, Ryan, do you want to say a little bit more about it? Ryan is involved as a critical friend in supporting the work in that program, so he might have a bit to say about what happens.
Hi, everybody. I've emerged from the darkness. If you're wondering what I look like, who was advancing all the slides. Yes, so I think it's a wonderful program. It's actually one that I've been working with for the past 4 years. And what it is that we found, so High Tech High does do professional development around project-based learning and some of the systems that we've implemented. And what we found is that those programs have a lot more buy-in if we're able to kind of over the course of a year have a sustained effort where a group of passionate teachers are working, that you have a critical friend. That's the role that I provide for a group that's in Chicago, actually. We are checking in every month, that you come out and visit our campus 3 times during the year, where you get a chance to see our campus, where we get a chance to help support you in kind of implementing strategies that work at your site. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for people that are looking for a chance to kind of, I think getting back at one of those earlier questions, implement some of these things at their own school site. So I definitely would encourage you to email Laura McBain, that's L. McBain, at hightechhigh.org, or myself, it's just R. Gallagher at hightechhigh.org, and we'd love to share some more information about that.
Great, thank you, Ryan. And do we have any more questions?
I have a comment, which is just that you have witnessed one of the High Tech High phenomena, which I would describe as shared leadership, and that is when you get an idea that you think you know who the movers and the shakers are at High Tech High, then someone else emerges, and then someone else emerges, and it's a whole constellation of superstars. It's constantly amazing. So it's one of the delights of working with this group. There are a lot of people who are really smart and really good and really terrific to work with.
Just to be clear, you were talking about me, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a testimonial, Ryan.
Okay, good.
I guess Ryan's a school leadership alum, which we didn't talk about yet, but that must be what's happening here.
Thanks.
No doubt. No doubt.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to call it a day here. We really thank you for joining us. The priority deadline for applications is January 16th. Please reach out to us. In the meantime, you can email us at gsc-info@hightechhigh.org if you have any questions along the way. We're here to support you. You're welcome to visit our K-12 schools and also welcome to observe a GSC class. I'm sure our residents wouldn't mind if you wanted to shadow and spend some time with them and have more conversations. So we're happy to connect you in any way or answer any questions that you might have about the program at this point. So thank you for joining us. Thank you to all the students for joining us. To Rob and Steve, Ryan, thank you so much for your experience too and the tech support. Have a great evening.
Thank you.